And I think also people exposing more if they can. I mean, I know I'm a voice for a lot of the fathers that can't, speak about their case. Um, I know you can get audio recordings or audio transcripts of your court hearing, using those, publicly shaming these judges and attorneys, getting it out of there because I mean, people do it all the time and get celebrities canceled or these social influencers canceled. Why aren't we doing that for the family court system?
America, planet Earth, Spokane County. What's good? This is your boy Codell, and welcome back to another episode of the Father's Gospel Podcast. We got a good one today. We got the one and only Taylor Jones, aka Miss Dadvocate, and we are excited to have her on the show. Taylor, how you doing?
Doing good. Excited to be here.
Good, good. And let me not forget, this is my lovely co-host.
Ain't lovely.
Kyle Spencer.
Yeah, Kyle.
All right. Let's get into this. So, first off, Taylor, could you please share with our audience a little bit about yourself and what has inspired and motivated you to be such a vocal advocate for fathers and parental rights?
Yes. So, not just my story of being a former alienated child, but also my husband's story of him being a fully alienated father and non-custodial as well. So, I got several different experiences here.
All right. Yeah. If you want to get into them a little bit, feel free to.
So I feel like the start of my story was when I found out the truth, right? So basically, I was 17 in a medical camp. My dad's sister ran this medical camp. How my mom let me do this medical camp, knowing that my dad's sister ran it, is beyond me. I guess she kind of figured she wouldn't say anything. But towards the end of the medical camp, she came up to me and she goes, here's your dad's cell phone number.
Wow.
I'm like, why would I want that?
Yeah.
He's wanted nothing to do with me. I'm 17, almost 18, and at this point, she goes, you really need to hear what he has to say, his side of the story. I was like, okay. So I just didn't think of anything of it. And I think just out of the blue one day, I'm like, I'm going to hit him up. I want to see what he says. And I didn't call. I was too afraid. So I was just texting. And I was like, hey, this is Taylor, your daughter. I got questions for you. And, he opened, came with me to open arms. I mean, he didn't hold back. And I just started asking him questions and just kind of started connecting the dots. Now, at this time, I didn't tell my mom at this point that I'd gotten his phone number. But it wasn't until my high school graduation. I'm like, hey, I've been talking to my dad. I would really like to invite him to my high school graduation. And she was very upset that I was even talking to him. And I'm like, he's missed out on everything so far. And she's like, well, that's his choice. And I'm like, not from what I've been gathering, it wasn't. But I kept quiet. I was like, well, I still want to invite him. He's missed out on so much. Let me just do it. And she goes, well, I'm not going to be caught in the same auditorium as him. I'm not going to be caught dead in the same auditorium as him. So you either got to choose him or you got to choose me. And at that point, I regretfully chose her because I still wasn't 100% convinced just yet because we were just texting at this point. But my mom did allow my aunt, so my dad's sister and her family, to come to my graduation. Okay. And so that's what started it all. Started the trickle effect of everything, and just my at-home life after that. It always been bad and abusive and emotional and this and that. But it led after that to, there was like a tracker on my car my mom put on there, and I disabled it, and then it ended up being a domestic assault by my stepdad to me, like picking me up and body slamming me to the ground and dragging me through concrete because I didn't want to go home with them. I wanted to stay with a friend till things at home cooled off. So I kind of put my relationship building with my dad on pause because of everything that was going on at home. And then I ran away technically at 18. Okay. And then I had to go back home because the situation wasn't good. And then I met my husband. And right off the bat with my husband, he told me, hey, I may have a child. I'm not sure because, she told me it was very wishy-washy. It is my child. It's not my child. I was there at the birth. She wouldn't let me put my name on the birth certificate, this and that. So that kind of started rolling in. And then I ended up running away with him
Okay.
just a few months later. And we've been together ever since. So since 2013. And then we got married in 2015. So rolls over to his kind of story. So the first time I reunited with my dad was on my wedding day in 2015. We had talked a little bit up into that point, and we're like, we want to see each other. So he lives about 4 hours away. So it's not
Okay.
like we live close together. And so I was like, come to my wedding.
I think I've seen the pictures of some. I think you've posted some of those, haven't you?
Yes,
Yeah.
because that is something I never thought I would get to do, was to have my dad walk me down the aisle. So to actually get to have that was like a dream come true. So the first time I saw him, we were actually 2 hours late to our wedding because our fridge broke. So as soon as I got there, I'm like, hey, Dad, grab my arm. Let's walk down the aisle. So we were, in some of the pictures I think I posted, you can see we were talking. And as we were talking all the way down to the aisle. So it's kind of crazy to think that, we got reunited just for him to give me away to my husband.
Right. And how long did that, because when you first got in contact with them, how long did it really take, months, a year or whatever, for you guys to really start making that connection?
Probably 3 or 4 years because I graduated in high school in 2012 and then I didn't get married till 2015.
Okay.
So
Okay.
several years. But just like the home life and leaving my parents and then just the emotional and mental craziness that I went through those years, and then trying to rebuild just some kind of communication with my dad. It took years. But he never gave up. He never gave up on me, and I never gave up on him. And just, I need time to
Right.
kind of figure things out. And then we ended up moving before we got married to a different place in Florida where I'm from. So there was
Okay.
a whole lot going on there. But yeah, after my husband and I got married, that was in March in 2015. In October 2015 is when his so-called child's mother hit him with $700 a month in child support and 2 years back pay.
Wow.
So I think she saw him at a gas station and saw where he worked. And then, what do you know it? The Department of Revenue came after him. So,
Right. You're like, oh, he must make decent money. Let me try to get that
yeah.
money now.
Because, just the rumor mill, the guy who she said was the father, who still, I don't know to this day, is basically who raised this other child, was also paying underneath the table, from rumor mill, to see him. Because she's like, well, you're not going to see him unless you can pay me. And they had a daughter together, or a child together. So she was getting like 3 streams of income.
Wow.
So, oh yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy. Well, I really love a lot of your posts. You're pretty base. I mean, I like that the issues going on with Title 4D and all sorts of other stuff. So I mean, I've been really impressed with everything you've been putting out there. And to be honest, I mean, as being a father myself and going through what I've gone through in the family courts, I always love it when I see a woman out there that can acknowledge what dads are going through in the family courts, because we definitely need, I mean, we need men to step up, but we also need more female allies as well to really win this battle that we're facing. So yeah, thank you.
I agree. I like to post, I like to expose them because I post a lot of stuff from TikTok, and there's a lot of videos out there of how to, suck your baby daddy dry, or how to get them to go to jail. And it's everywhere. USPS workers, the child support office workers, they're like, I love it when I get a dad call in and he's crying and this and that. Or I love serving fathers. This is where they live. Oh, yes, this is where they live. So the toxics are working together, and I love exposing them.
Yeah, yeah, you do a good job. And I'm sure you get some pretty crazy messages from just random people not liking what you're putting out there. So,
To be honest, I
uh-huh.
don't. I
Good.
I don't get a lot of bitter baby mama hate. I will say I get a lot of hate from fathers, honestly, because
Okay.
they see it as they don't believe me, and a lot of them because they don't know my story. I've been posting freely on social media since 2015, so they haven't been following me. They just see this girl out here, so they think it's for likes or it's for popularity, or they're like, what are you doing to help us out besides just posting? I'm like, well, I'm a board member of a nonprofit. I have been actively, talking about my story. I have talked several fathers out of unaliving themselves. Like, I'm trying to put boots on the ground and get things done. Working with Anthony Cancel with his AI technology. I'm working with Mark Ludwig, the lawmakers, and this and that. So I'm like, what else do you want me to do?
Right. I love
Want
that
me
you're
to
working with Ludwig. We start our mentorship with him this coming Monday. So, yeah, in my opinion, he seems to be the most successful guy out there in the country right now with getting everything moving forward. So, good for
Yeah,
you. That's awesome.
I always say there's three tiers of father's rights or 50-50 equal share parenting. Like the third tier is the lowest tiers, like the social influencers, right? The social advocates that are telling their story or promoting or raising awareness. And then you have people like Anthony Cancel or Zach Martin with Kids Deserve Dads that have programs that are helping fathers now, going
Right.
through it now. Then you have people like Robert Garza and Mark Ludwig that are helping now in the future with lawmakers and getting like the three strikes law down. And also like Chris Fedler, he's working in Florida with the custodial interference laws, the things that are already in place, but they're not being enforced. So you
Okay.
really have three tiers of, in the movement, in my opinion. I've been, at least is what I can say that I've
Yeah.
seen.
Yeah. Well, I know me and Kyle, I mean, one of our biggest frustrations has been since we've gotten involved in this whole movement is, I mean, as frustrated as we get with, some of these crazy baby mamas out there, I think a lot of times we feel more frustrated with the dads because getting the dads, they all know it. They all know they're getting screwed over by the courts, but getting them to actually stand up for themselves and their kids, they, it's like pulling teeth sometimes. And I think a lot of it is just because they're fearful of the
Mhm.
repercussions. But I'm like, hey, if we come out in large numbers and we actually start organizing together, there's nothing they can do to stop us. So, I mean, we can't be afraid to fight back.
Right. And I agree. I feel like there's three things that are needed. There's education,
Right.
because, I came up with this idea of a high school class called The Legal Side of Love. And it teaches high school students about entrapment, paternity fraud, how much it actually costs, child support calculator type of deal, how much attorneys cost. And I know that was tried out in Texas, but they went through the sex ed class type of deal to get it passed to do, and that didn't do well.
Okay.
But I feel like if we educate the young, but also people now aren't just educated on the family court system, and we're heavily having to rely on lawyers and attorneys to be our voice when I just don't feel like it should be like that. And definitely with pro se being so popular now to kind of
Yeah.
cut cost. But educating these fathers and mothers, money, there's definitely money that needs to be had here to get things moving, and just support these fathers having a support system. I actually got to ask my dad, because I just got to see him this week. I said, was there ever a point? I said, this is going to be a heavy question. I said,
Yeah.
was there ever a point where you wanted to end it all? Like it was just too much for you to bear, and you wanted to unalive yourself? And I said, because I talk to fathers day in and day out over all social media platforms. They can't do it anymore.
Right.
And he said that, by the time I was 10 or 11, that's when he was forced to give up his rights to me. He goes, he had never got to that point because he had another child to help, live for and support. Because I have another sister. So same dad, different moms. So I'm like, well, what advice do you have for fathers? Like, what is that breaking point where you just said, I've had enough? Like, you either give up your rights or you just kind of take a break, you sit back. And he goes, when it's consumed your life, you can't
Right.
eat, you can't breathe, you can't sleep. It's all this. He goes, life is way too short to be miserable. There's always a possibility that you can reunite when they're older. Document everything. And I mean, everything. So they can filter out the lies when they get older and just do what you can. I mean, my dad worked 3 jobs. He had a wife and a child to support as well a little bit later on. And, it's as hard it is for me to think about, my sister had my dad her whole life. And even till this day, they're very close. I didn't get to have that. But, I've learned to forgive and we're working on it now. So.
Well, that's beautiful. No, that is beautiful. And I think a big advantage we have nowadays is with social media and the internet, because it used to be a lot easier to hide all this stuff. But now with social media and everything and the way you can document everything, I mean, I don't think a lot of these parents that are alienating their children from the other parent, I don't think they realize. I think it's going to start biting more and more and more of them in the butt. And I honestly believe too, we're in the early stages of the tide starting to turn. I definitely see some momentum shifting around the country, and this issue does seem, people seem to be becoming more aware of all this madness.
I agree. I see a shift in the particular father's rights movement because that's particularly where I've been the last 10 years. And it's moving more towards 50-50 equal shared parenting.
Right.
So, and when you run into that, you run into a lot of, for me, there's no way to take or dismantle the system, right? You're going to have to take it down from multiple angles, from sides, from the top to the bottom, inside out. And you run into a lot of people, I'm just going to say people, that think that their way is the right way.
Right.
And I just don't believe that one way is going to do it. That we need to unify and work together on taking it down from all sides. So that's what the nonprofit that I work for, we're hitting those 3 tiers that I talked about earlier. We're wanting to unify and work with everybody to, ultimately destroy this thing, reform.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I agree, because I think the best thing we can do is just hit it from multiple angles, all the way up to the federal courts, to the local courts, and just all around. I mean, yeah, I 100% agree with you on that. Kyle, is there anything you want to ask or add to any of this?
Well, she's in Florida, right?
Yes.
So a good start right now is they just recently passed, well, not recently, I think it was like May was opted into, and then June hit. So they got rid of alimony, lifetime alimony in Florida. And that's a good start. Cause I mean, I think the best way, I don't believe in graduating things, whether it's your medicine or laws or anything like that, or easing into some of these things. Like you go into it. I think you should just go, balls to the wall.
Right.
Start doing these things, and you say, you get rid of no fault divorces. You get rid of no fault divorces. You get rid of alimony. You have default 50-50 parenting, unless obviously the things that happen where there's the abuse of the children, because it's about the child. It's not about the woman.
Right.
It's about the children.
Right.
So if you have that, and it's just make mandatory things again, and that's the biggest thing. If you take that out of the hands of the government, because that's what they always say, right? We're the government, we're here to help. Oh God.
Yeah. Run.
They don't have that. But like Florida started that thing, getting rid of alimony, get rid of some of these things. So it's a lot more progressive on there, but at the same time, the biggest thing is just holding accountability to these officials.
Right. Yeah.
So,
accountability both to women and to the lawyers and the judges, because
mhm.
like with Chris Fedler with the custodial interference, they have all these laws in place, even in Florida, but they're just not enforcing them. And you're having
Right.
to take these mothers back to court and hold them in contempt over and over and over and over again. And that's just throwing away money just to hold them accountable. And just that feeling when why in criminal court, when they lie, they're held accountable, but in family court, when they lie, oops, my bad.
Yeah.
That's it. That just
Well,
doesn't make sense.
I don't think that I honestly believe most of these attorneys and family court judges and commissioners, they do not want the system to change the way it currently is, because I mean they are making so much money dragging out these divorces and these custody cases. I mean, they don't want to stop milking that cow, and
That's
so
why
they're
you vote out when you go to vote, and the judges that are there, you vote them out. Get them out. Vote new in. But I
yep.
know with my mom, my dad actually told me this. My grandmother, my great grandmother, ran an in-home daycare. We
Okay.
lived with her. And she told the court she was having to pay my great grandmother to watch me while she went to work. My grandmother never charged her a dime. She never had to pay
Right.
for any of that, hardly anything. And so she was blatantly frauding the court, saying that she was having to pay for daycare when she wasn't.
That's crazy. That's crazy. I mean, sadly, not surprising. All right. Well, here's my next question for you. Regarding our family courts, what do you believe our biggest challenges are that fathers are facing, and what steps do you think we need to take to put an end to the corruption going on in our family courts?
Multiple things. So the number one is ourselves.
Right.
Fathers themselves, but also even just advocates. Like I said, there's a lot of people in this movement that think their one way is the right way to take it down. And if we could just all unify and work together on the different angles to take it down, then we can. I feel like we can. But also maybe vetting attorneys. There are good attorneys out there. And I know Zach Martin, he's the one with Kids Deserve Doubts out in Wyoming. He just passed the bar. So
Okay.
he's an attorney, or just newly an attorney as well. Melissa Isaac, she's an attorney for men as well too. So really vetting these attorneys out and utilizing Anthony Cancel's AI technology with Pro Say, maybe educating these fathers on how to represent themselves. Because if you drain dry the lawyers and they're not really needed, maybe, I don't know, you just drain one side of the system, you can start draining the other and voting the judges out too.
I agree. That's why I'm excited about AI, because I think eventually it's going to make a lot of these attorneys obsolete and judges. Honestly, I would eventually like to see some type of AI system installed in courts to where, this sounds a little crazy, but it could basically, it's monitoring the case, and if the judge rules something illegal, the AI just shuts it down. I would love to see some type of program like that develop. So I
That
think
would
that'd be
be
epic.
really cool. And I think also people exposing more if they can. I mean, I know I'm a voice for a lot of the fathers that can't, speak about their case. I know you can get audio recordings or audio transcripts of your court hearing, using those, publicly shaming these judges and attorneys, getting it out of there. Because I mean, people do it all the time and get celebrities canceled or these social influencers canceled. Why aren't we doing that for the family court system?
Right.
Will greatly take a charge to bring
Yeah.
some justice.
Right. Well, that's what I did. Because I've got this Commissioner Edward. She finally just recused herself from my case. But I went and got all the audio transcripts, and I had her on audio saying I can't be around my son unless I take the COVID vaccine and wear a mask and do all that craziness. So I just put it out there on social media. And it was funny, is a few weeks ago we were in court. My brother Kyle was with me, and they actually brought up our podcast in court, and they were not too happy about it. So like, it's starting to circulate in the courtroom what we're doing on this side, and it's like, go
Good.
ahead, keep throwing more illegal rulings at me, because I've got all the patience in the world, and you're just giving me all the legal ammunition I need to make sure that we got everything we need to take you guys
That's how
down.
you know what you're doing is doing something, because it's ruffling feathers.
Yep.
So
Yeah. All right. Well, my third question is for you. Can you actually, you know what? You already kind of got into that, so let's move on. Okay. So for all the fathers out there who are being alienated from their children, including myself, including my brother Kyle, what advice would you offer? And is there anything specific that your father did that eventually helped you see through the lies that you're being fed to by your mom in the family courts?
it was just keeping an open line of communication. He never got upset. There was never a question that I wasn't allowed to answer, even if it was extremely personal, like, did you cheat on my mom? Or, did you really say you wanted me aborted? Like she told me you did. So leaving no question unanswered, really. And he didn't really document everything, but I was able to more piece things together by the way my mom acted.
Right.
He never talked negatively about her. Kudos to him, because I can't do the same. But he never said anything bad about her. He spoke the truth. He stuck to facts. And I feel like fathers really need to build their support system to make it all the way to the end and have that hope that reunification is possible.
Yep.
You know, I 100% believe it is. And especially when that child gets away from that environment. So for me, it was running away from home or leaving from home and going no contact with her, to really clear my head and get out of that toxicity, that toxic environment.
Right. Now, do you currently do you have a relationship with your mom still, or is that kind of just up in the air? I mean, if you want to get into that, you don't have to, obviously.
I mean, I share my life, so nothing like
Right.
I expect this. No, so I haven't physically seen her since 2013.
Oh,
And I've
wow.
I've talked to her, on and off throughout the years, to talk to my sister. So I have a sister, same mom, different dads. We're 11 years
Okay.
apart. So I had called to talk to her, and then she would hop on the phone. It was almost like I was calling my child, and she would stand over my sister to listen to our conversation because I was a bad influence.
So weird. Yeah.
And then I stopped calling. I used to cut box tops and send it to my sister. And my sister had went to a family friend's house and got their iPad and messaged me on social media. And so that friend allowed her to call me, and we had a conversation. I think she was 13 or 14 at this time. And we told her, do not tell our mom you talked to me. Like, this is our secret. Of course, she can't keep her mouth closed for nothing. She's just like me. And we were then fully alienated again. And I actually just got to see her June of this year. She came to where I
Beautiful.
live.
Okay.
So after all of that, to me, in my head, my mom took my childhood away from my dad. She gets no future with me.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I don't let her, because it also solidified that for me, when I was pregnant with my first, it was a very traumatic birth, ended in a C-section. And the only time in my life I really wanted my mom is when I've been pregnant and in labor. Like, I felt close to Jesus at that point. And my family friend had told her, Taylor really needed you. And she
Okay.
goes, well, I wouldn't have gone if she even asked. She goes, I want her on my front porch with kids in tow, begging me to be her life. So she would want me to leave my husband and come there with my kids and beg her to be back in my life. So I was like, you know what? She is just a narcissist, has to be. She thrives off people's pain and misery. So she gets no future with me. She gets no future with her grandkids. Absolutely
Yeah.
nothing. And she just ended up selling my childhood home that was supposed to be brought down to me as
Okay.
well. So
Yeah. Well,
I
and that's the crazy thing is I feel like because I feel like the family courts this small group of women that are doing this, that's who the family courts are empowering. They're empowering these narcissistic women who not only they're alienating the child, but that shows that they don't even honestly really care about their children. Because if they did care about their children, they wouldn't be keeping their child or their children away from the father. And yeah, it just speaks volumes.
It's, I mean, all throughout, it wasn't just emotional abuse. It was physical abuse too with my stepdad, but it was also, she forced me into a cosmetic procedure at 14 because she didn't like the way men looked at me. So it was, and force feeding me Adderall and Vyvanse to control me because I wasn't normal when I didn't take it. So it's a little bit of also, was it Munchausen syndrome by proxy? Or I really feel like it's more than just narcissistic behaviors. It's a lot of mental issues.
Yeah, yeah, certainly, certainly. Do you got any questions you want to ask, Kyle?
No, not really. I mean, just pointing out the obvious. I'm winging it, and I'm not like you, where I just let the conversation go where it takes it. So.
Right,
I'm just
right,
like, yeah,
right.
I'm winging it.
Right. I know. I last night I sat down, wrote all my questions out, did some research into your organization and all that stuff. So, all right. Let's see. Next question I got for you is okay. No, let's go to this one. So, can you explain why you believe it's important for all Americans to stand up and support fathers' parental rights?
Because we're louder in numbers. I mean, if we could get our voices as loud as the Women's for Abortions, we can make some major change.
Right. Yeah, I agree. I love that. All right. And then I love this. I love that you know about this. Can you discuss why we should be concerned about Title 4D and E, and what do you believe we can do to eliminate them?
I just feel there's too many answers to that on how to get rid of it. I just don't know if they would ever get rid of it. Maybe they will reform it, change it, because it's just too much of a moneymaker for them to get
Right.
rid of it.
Yeah.
So I feel like there will have to be a middle ground for them. So it's like a business. You have to barter with the business, right? You have to show them what they're going to get out of it if they change it. So
Right.
definitely people speaking with their local lawmakers. Mine would be, Governor DeSantis. And I feel like he's very open-minded. He comes to where I live all the time. Some
Okay.
reason, I don't know. I would love to sit down and talk to him and just kind of get his viewpoints. He has a very strong family unit view. But I don't know. That's a hard one. I feel like
Yeah, that is that's a big fight right there because of how much money that brings into the system. So
I think
yeah.
if we're smart about what we're trying to enact. I know, like in Florida, the Good Dad Act was enacted back in July of 2023, and it gave unmarried fathers the same playing field as married fathers when going into court. Basically.
That's beautiful.
Because like with my husband, he was never married to his first child's mother, and when his name was on the birth certificate, so it just gave him a financial responsibility. It didn't give him any kind of visitation, any kind of anything. So that would have kind of evened out the playing field for him.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's crazy because when I was in the hospital with my son's mother for his birth, I later found out that she colluded with the hospital to keep me off the birth certificate. And I feel like a dummy. I felt like a dummy because I didn't even think of signing a birth certificate at the time. Like it's my one and only kid. So it never really registered in my head that I needed to sign a birth certificate. And that just, man, I found out later in court within a few months, I got no legal rights to this kid. And then in Oregon, and I think here in Washington too, if you're not married, you don't necessarily have the same legal rights to your child as if you're a married father. So yeah, that definitely blindsided me. That kicked my butt. So
Well,
yeah.
also, like, even in Florida, with it being 50-50, if you're married and your wife steps out on you or out of your marriage and gets pregnant by somebody else, the husband is going to be the father.
Yeah, yeah.
They're going to have to go to court and fight that out. So,
right. Well, I think it's Georgia. they just passed a law for mandatory DNA testing for newborn kids. And
Good.
I love watching like some of these angry ladies on social media just talk about how wrong that is. And it's like, well, obviously it's a guarantee that the child is yours, but it's not necessarily a guarantee because you carried the child, but it's not necessarily a guarantee that the child is the father. And really, what's the big deal? I mean, if you've got nothing to hide, you shouldn't even care about it.
That's what I always say is mothers have 400% certainty that the child they're carrying is theirs.
Right.
Fathers don't have that opportunity. And I feel like it is a constitutional right for a child to know their biological father and for a father to know, if they have a child or not.
Right.
So
Yeah.
I definitely am for mandatory DNA testing at birth. Heck, with married couples as well, might as well throw them in there. Just tack it
Right.
on with the insurance. I would be glad my taxpayer money would go to that. I
Yeah.
would send it
Yeah.
on.
Well, and if I think I might not be correct on this, but I think it's something like 1 in 3 or 1 in 4 kids that are born are being raised by dads that are not their biological dads, and the dads are not even necessarily aware of it. And so, yeah, it's an issue that needs to be addressed. And I think also in Georgia with that new law, I think the mother now can face jail time if they can some way prove that she uh purposely lied about who the father of the child
Like
is and all that.
paternity fraud.
Yes,
Basically.
paternity fraud. Yes, yes. So this is pretty base. All right, and one of my last questions for you is can you tell us about your organization, the Equal Parenting Initiative, and what steps your organization is focused on taking to level the playing field for fathers and just parental rights in general?
So we are a very baby organization or nonprofit. So I just joined probably a couple weeks ago
Oh, cool.
with a guy named Tyler Hayes. He's a father going through the court system now, and it's just being, same story, it just messed over. And he's like, I've had enough. Like, I need to do something. So we're currently working on reaching out to other organizations that want to unify. We're thinking about bringing a crisis hotline, and we're wanting to really hit those 3 tiers. So with other social advocates, we want to work with people like Mark Ludwig and Robert Gaza to get things going. And then we also want to work on providing programs to fathers going through it now, like maybe gym programs, work together, work out. Because mental health is really big in this, and physical health. You've got to be healthy mentally and physically to withstand
Yep.
this literal battle. We're also wanting to get volunteer opportunities for people, because a lot of people are like, I want to help. But for me, it was also, but what do I do? I don't know what to do.
Right.
So we're working on getting volunteer opportunities, like court watching. That's
Okay.
something I would love to get into do, because that also gives fathers or mothers, a support system. Court can
Right.
be very intimidating. If you got people in the back rooting for you, you're going to go in there like chest full, blown out, and I don't know, you will be able to do better.
And
So
it puts natural pressure. I think it puts natural pressure on the judges and commissioners to do their job correctly if they know there's a large support system in there for the father or even the mother. So
exactly. And we're kind of been thinking about like trunk or treats for kids, or some kind of like a Christmas giveaway, something kind of like Ryan Powell with the unmarried fathers doing. He's wanting to do a Christmas giveaway to dads.
okay.
My idea was like have dads drop their Amazon wish list. Fathers, in my opinion, because also my husband, are very selfless. They're for
Right.
their family, they're for their kids. And so they neglect themselves a lot of the time. And I would love to get a father something that, he could use or for himself and not just for his kids or whatever. So something like that. We have ideas coming out.
Yeah, we could use a little pampering. It's okay for us to pamper
Right.
ourselves once in a while. So no, I love that. And we're actually because we have a foundation that we're all we got to do is get our bylaws written up, and then we're going to be registering our Father's Gospel Foundation. So we're in the final phases. Once that's all locked in, we would definitely love to set up a meeting with you and whoever else might be interested in working with us and see what we can get going. So, because it's really about building up this huge network, this huge coalition, not just locally, but nationwide.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, my last question for you, Miss Dadvocate, where can people find you and how can they reach out to you?
So I right now, because I just got on TikTok as Mrs. Dadvocate, I've had it for a while, but I'm very shy with putting my face out there. It's so much easier just to write a post and put it out, but actually putting my face and my Southern accent out there, it's a little bit new to me. So Mrs. Dadvocate on TikTok, or my personal Facebook, Taylor Ray Jones, or our nonprofit organization, the Equal Parenting Initiative. So that's about it.
Okay. Yeah. Well, we'll make sure we put links in the video so people can click on your Facebook, your TikTok, and your Equal Shared Parenting website as well.
And
So,
I do have a code if anybody's interested in the AI program for Pro Say Dad. It's Taylor Ray 25 as well,
okay.
to get a free trial of it to test it out.
Awesome. Yeah, if you would to send that over to me and then I'll post that on the video as well in the description box so people can use that as well and check that out because I think AI is such a useful tool. I mean, I've been learning to utilize it more and more, and it is helping me with the podcast and
It's
everything else.
scary how neat it is.
I know, it might go Terminator on us one day. We got to be careful.
Or remember what you asked me to ask or to do like 3 years ago? Like, yeah.
Right, right. Well, Miss Dadvocate, Miss Taylor, thank you so much for joining us on the podcast. We truly appreciate you. And yeah, let's stay in contact and let's just continue to build together. And all you fathers out there and all you mothers out there, get on board with us. Get on board with us. There's strength in numbers. And the larger we get, the quicker we can change the system for the better.
The
So
quicker they fall.
yes, yes, indeed. All right, my dear. Thank you so much. You have a wonderful day and God bless.
You as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.